Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Bayou Bets for Thursday, March the 2nd. I'm Zach Ewing with Jim Derry, and we are here to bring you through all of the sports betting news for South Louisiana and beyond, as always. We are brought to you by Caesar Sportsbook. I'd like to remind everybody right up top, go to lsuposter.com and get your commemorative poster set. All you have to do is be a new user and bet at least $10, and you get to pick out your three posters: LSU football championships, Joe Burrow Heisman. I think we might even have a Saints Super Bowl poster in there you can pick if that's your jam. Go ahead, check it out. You get three of them for free, a $90 value just for placing a $10 bet. Jim, we got a good show today. We got some Pelicans talk finally after a win. We got some Saints talk, some Coach of the Year talk. I think you talked to the Dalai Lama and he told you Aaron Rodgers was there to talk to him. So all sorts of different stuff.
I was going to say the Dalai Lama will be part of this show. I can't wait for closing arguments. And if people are by the way, before we get started, anyone who likes golf, this is the tournament to watch, the Arnold Palmer Invitational at Bay Hill. It is the toughest non-major there is, and to watch some of these guys now. John Rahm's a different bird. He's already plus 190 to win.
John Rahm's ridiculous.
He really is. He's plus
ridiculous.
190 to win. He just made an eagle. But I'm telling you, if you even kind of like golf, take some time this weekend to watch this course, especially tomorrow. It's going to be tough. Saturday's supposed to be really tough. Fun stuff. Make some time to watch it, and keep your eye on. Well, I mean, you got to watch Scotty Scheffler, but watch Patrick Cantlay as my pick to click.
That was your pick. I was going to ask you if you placed any bets. I
did.
I had Will Zalatoris, who did not have a good day. Yeah. But I've got some. Okay. I've got some DraftKings, some daily fantasy lineups that are very live. One of my strategies was to do a couple lineups that were all afternoon guys today, because tomorrow afternoon is supposed to be especially brutal.
Yeah, it's going to be really brutal. So
I all the PM AM guys, and we'll see. Rahm is one of the guys I got, so we'll see what happens. It's Poppy is here. He says, "Who dat?" He says, "Good evening to you." It's Poppy. Let's start off as we always do, Jim, with our headlines. Pelicans win in Portland last night. Boy, you got on me a little bit for saying they saved their season, but they really needed that game.
It was a must win. I mean, it's hard to say a must win and save your season with 19 to go is a little bit different. I'm on the final bet show tonight on Fox 8, and it's kind of funny to see how Garland Gillen went about. So he had all 19 games written down and made his wins and loss picks, but you can't say they saved their season, but you can say that it was a must win. They won it, and now they have some games coming up after this next 2-game stretch where I think they can get some dubs in a row, and we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. We'll also talk a little later about Derek Carr. The Saints met with him again at the NFL Combine this week. I mean, all signs point to things going pretty well at this point. There's obviously other teams involved, and so you never know what's going to happen. The Jets are involved. The Panthers are involved. We don't know if other teams will get involved.
Dalai Lama's involved.
But certainly, yes, Aaron Rodgers and the Dalai Lama are involved. But certainly the Saints look like they're in pretty good shape for Derek Carr at this point. We should know in the next week or two how that shapes up. Speaking of the NFL draft, Jalen Carter, one of the top prospects in the draft. In fact, if the Bears were to keep the number 1 pick, he was one of the guys that everyone thought they might take. He's a defensive tackle from Georgia. He was charged in connection with a street racing death in Athens that happened in January. And he's still on, if you look at odds for the number 1 pick, he's still on there, but he's dropping fast.
Yeah, well, I think that anyone who overlooks him, and I don't think anyone will, and I don't mean to demean the trouble that he's in, but I mean it's misdemeanor charges that it doesn't seem that he had major involvement in. I hope I'm right, and I mean this kid's going to be a stud. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think he was racing with the guy who ended up dying, who crashed his car and died, and so that is a crime. But as you say, possibly not like a serious jail time sort of thing. So we'll see. Interesting story to keep an eye on. The other headline here, the SEC women's basketball tournament is underway in Greenville, South Carolina. LSU doesn't play till tomorrow. They got the double bye. They are going to play the winner of a game that starts in about an hour between Auburn and Georgia, and they
We
will
got the
play at 5 o'clock on
dogs. We got the dogs.
Friday.
Part of our daily best bets. The Lady Dog.
Georgia, yeah, they took LSU to overtime at the PMAC
They've
a
won
couple of
7
weeks
of
ago.
9. Their only 2
So,
losses are to South Carolina and LSU, and the LSU was an overtime loss, and they beat Auburn by 11 last week, and they're 10-point favorites. So we like Georgia at 5 o'clock.
take
You got
Georgia,
time
and
to
we'll talk about this later too. I made my own odds for that, and I was looking at Georgia. They have the best point differential in conference games of any team outside the top 4. So they're the 7 seed. So that would be a pretty difficult matchup for LSU. LSU obviously going to be favored there, but we'll talk more about that in a little while. Speaking of the Derek Carr headline, we had a poll question for you on Monday. Very good response from you guys. We thank you for that. What should the Saints do at quarterback? And look at how close this was. This was as of about a half hour ago. Draft a quarterback got 216 votes, and sign Derek Carr got 215 votes. And there were plenty of people. Check out our Instagram, by the way, where you can comment and say what you think. There were lots of people who said you should do both: sign Derek Carr and trade the draft for the quarterback of the future.
Yeah, I'm not into that doing both stuff. If you get Derek Carr, I mean, sure, if you want to take a quarterback later on, like in the 4th, 5th round or something, but there's too many needs in this team to do that, and I don't think you can afford to do that. I really don't. So I don't agree with that at all.
A little surprised that Derek Carr did not win this vote. I think maybe the way we worded the question, do whatever it takes to sign him. Well, if the Jets offer him $50 million, okay, you're probably not going to do whatever it takes.
There are a ton of people who don't like Derek Carr out there, and there's a ton of people. I'm going to be nice today. I'm in a good mood, so I'm going to be nice to people, at least for today, and say that they think that Derek Carr and what we have now is kind of what and what. There's a lot of those, and they look at it, all his stats, just the same as they did for Jameis Winston. I mean, he threw 30 interceptions. Yeah, well, he had an awful coach, and he needed LASIK surgery, and then he had Sean Payton, and he was 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and then he had no coach, and he had a bad few games. So, it is what it is. I mean, people could say what they want, but this offense would be much better suited for Derek Carr. His offensive line would be much better than anything he's ever had, and his defense certainly would be the best team he ever played on with a real defense. So
yeah, no doubt about that. And that's a little foreshadowing for my sound off at the end of the show. So stay tuned for that, because I just don't understand
the
hate for Derek Carr. Don't really. I am biased. I as we always say, but that's not even really what the rant's about. So we'll get there.
No, and I'm not biased. So we'll get to that in a little bit. And I'm on your side 100%. So that doesn't happen every day.
Even Jim Derry's on my side, so yeah. I know I'm in good standing. Let's start with the Pelicans. We'll go through our 4 topics today. Our first one will be the Pels. Look. Could they have lost this game and still, like you said, there's 19 games left. The season's not over or anything. They're still only like 2 games out of the 6th seed, so it's not like it's that far out. But just emotionally, it felt like, man, do they need this win? They come out of the All-Star break with 3 straight losses. They looked just totally dead in the last couple minutes of a home loss to Orlando the other night. Like it just felt like things were slipping away from them. And all of a sudden, Brandon Ingram drops 40 points. They're 3-point road dogs here. And come up with really actually a pretty easy win.
Not just that they won and how they won, because they trailed by as many as 8 in the 3rd quarter, made a little run to, I think they cut it to 1 going into the 4th quarter, and they just kind of ran away in the 4th quarter. They couldn't figure out how to stop Damian Lillard, and most teams do. But there was no Dame time in the 4th quarter. I thought the refs were pretty heavy-handed towards Portland, and I'm not usually one to complain about refs, but I thought the refs did an awful job last night. But the Pels found a way. They were determined. And I think that if they play this way over the course of the next 6 weeks, that they not only have a good chance to get into the playoffs, I think they will. I think the next 2 games are crucial. You got to win one of these 2 games, I think, against either the Warriors or the Kings. And, they play the Warriors without Steph Curry is not going to play in that game. He's not going to play tonight. And not only that,
and it's
the Warriors are playing a back-to-back. Yeah. So they may end up resting someone besides Steph Curry who won't play. So it's going to be an interesting scenario. And like I said, this is a team that we know. We saw last year, and it's later than it was last year. If they can get on a mini run, they have a situation where they come home. Dallas is not an easy team, but after that, you play Oklahoma City, and upcoming after Oklahoma City, I don't know if it's the one right after that, but they play a back-to-back with Houston. So they have a chance to make a little mini run.
Yeah, they've got, after those two games we have listed there, those two home games, they've got Portland at home, the Lakers at home, which could be a key game for play-in positioning. And the Lakers, of course,
without LeBron.
Yeah, without LeBron. And then after that Lakers game is the back-to-back against Houston. And then I think a trip to San Antonio, very winnable game. So you look at these next two games at Golden State, at Sacramento, it's like if you could even find a way to win one, and I think you made that point, you're in pretty good shape. They are the Pelicans are 7-14-1 against the spread as road underdogs. Yeah. And they're going to be underdogs certainly against Sacramento. I would assume they will be even without Curry at Golden State. Sure. Golden State's 24-7 at home. I mean, they will be underdogs 6-14 against the spread before last night. So they got to find a way to, like, it's those tough road games. They've just fallen flat. Find a way to win one of these. And then, like you said, the schedule lightens up. You can get on that run, have a big game against the Lakers at home. And then perhaps get some buffer between you and the bottom.
You'll get Larry Nance back soon. Hopefully, you'll get back. Jose Alvarado's probably gonna be out for a couple of weeks. You need to get him back. We don't know when Zion's coming back. We keep talking about it, but
reevaluated next week.
I like the way the Pels played small ball, and you heard Antonio Daniels talk about it last night. If you were watching the Bally Sports broadcast. When they play small ball, it opens things up for BI, and it really did last night. Now, you can't play that against every team, but I think that a lot of the games coming up that you can, and it will open things up, and they found a way. But I think if you win, especially if you can find a way to win 2 out of the next 3, then you get set up to where nicely. Oklahoma City is without Shea Alexander for a little while too, so they're in a mess. He may not come back if they don't get themselves back into it. So
they may just play for a draft pick at that point. Yeah. It's interesting too. The other thing is you look at this schedule, there are no back-to-backs in there. In fact, not only that, but they've got 2 days off in between a couple of those games. So that works to their advantage. They got these injured players. Zion, again, we don't know. I mean, he's going to be reevaluated next week. That could mean anything from he's ready to go to he's going to be out 6 more weeks. Wow. I mean, we just don't know.
Even when he's reevaluated, though, you have to assume that at best, reevaluated, the best thing that happens is he's back a week after that, because he's still going to have to do some rehab when he comes back. So best case. But
if you look at it, only 3 games in the next 9 days. You know, he's not. If he's back in a week from Monday, he's only going to miss 4 more games or something. Like, I think there is a reason for optimism here.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't think it's reasonable to think he'll be back before towards the end of the month. I think that's best. I mean, realistic best case scenario, you're talking about the last 6 to 8 regular season games, which is fine. If they get him back for then and they keep themselves in a spot to where they're between 7 and 10, then fine, because he can help them make a big push. They finish with Minnesota, which could be a huge game, that last game. So get him back and have a chance and get yourself in to a situation where, you got a chance to make a play in or beyond. Like we said, only 2 games behind the 5 seed at the moment, and they're playing the team that's in the 5 seed on Friday. So really, you kind of want Golden State to win tonight, and they are our best bet, by the way, to play as they play the Clippers. So go Dubs, win tonight, and then Pels can get them tomorrow night.
Yeah. Yep. A couple more comments. Jerry's here.
Hello, Jerry.
Talking some more NFL as we move on to our second topic of the day. And this one's going to get people talking, I think, Jim. NFL Coach of the Year odds on Caesar Sportsbook.
Give me a break.
And wouldn't you believe that the top 2 favorites for NFL Coach of the Year are former Saints coaches, Dan Campbell and Sean Payton.
And the 10-1
for Dan Campbell, 12-1 for Sean Payton.
The one at the bottom is the former Saints offensive coordinator. So there you go. Yeah. The same former Saints coaches all over the place. You go first.
Hey, look, I think that there is a chance either of these guys could win Coach of the Year. It's especially Dan Campbell.
2 guys could win Coach of the Year.
Sean Payton, I think there's a little bit of hype around him, for lack of a better word. that may be, maybe a little too soon. Like that Broncos roster, there's some pieces there, but he's going to have to fix Russell Wilson. They play in a tough division. So he may or may not get things going. Like people thought the Broncos were going to be in the playoffs last year. They fell flat on their face. They're a bounce back candidate no matter who the coach is. And so Sean Payton may get some love if they do just automatically bounce back. I guess what I'm saying is Saints fans better get used to hearing his name in this sort of light. And you just have to, you got to move on. It's like breaking up with a girlfriend, right? Like at some point you have to let her go. And at some point, Sean Payton, he may be coach of the year next year or in 5 years. He may win a Super Bowl in Denver. That's the way it goes in the NFL. You lose the coach. He's a good coach. He's going to go do good things.
Yeah. Well, look, he may mean a win or two for that team. He made the Saints 9-8, a 7-10 team without him, a 9-8 team with him. So give the Broncos 2 more wins. Big deal. They're in a division where that doesn't mean jack. He's not going to win Coach of the Year if he goes 9-8. Russell Wilson, to me, I mean, I don't know how many times I need to say this. I mean, anybody that's watched any of our shows knows what I think. I think he's D-O-N-E done. It's just he's not going to come back and be anything special. You could just see last year he was lost. So maybe Sean Payton works some brilliant reclamation project. Good for you if you do. But good luck beating the Chiefs and good luck beating the Chargers. And who knows who the Raiders are going to get. And they may get the Dalai Lama. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But Sean Payton, don't go spend money. I mean, I know people who went out and have spent like legitimate money. They are like confident that the Broncos are going to be this great team, and the Broncos are their second favorite team because of Sean Payton. Get out of here. They're not going to be any good. They're not going to beat the Chiefs. They're just not going to beat the Chiefs, and I don't think they're going to beat the Chargers, even though the Chargers have an awful coach who'll be gone at the end of next year. And I'm surprised he didn't wait to take that job with a real quarterback.
I think
it's too tough. It's just too tough.
Between the Bengals and the Broncos, we got a lot of second favorite teams popping up around these parts.
I'll tell you who, and people can laugh all they want, but if the Dallas Cowboys go out, win that division, and they easily, to me, I mean, if you look at the division, I think the Eagles are going to have a tough comeback. I mean, these kind of teams that come out of, I won't say the Eagles came out of nowhere, but it's pretty close to nowhere. And you can hate the Dallas Cowboys all you want, but at 45-1, to say that Mike McCarthy isn't a value, because there's not, let's be honest, there's not a lot of value this time of year because you don't know what teams are going to get when you go, as you go along. You don't know what free agents they're going to sign. You don't know what their draft's going to look like. To me, I always tell people, if you want to bet for fun, take a couple teams in a future. They got really good odds, and you want to be a fan of somebody else, then go ahead and do it. But making bets this time of year in March doesn't make any sense, except here's one that does make sense. Mike McCarthy easily. I'm telling you right now, the Cowboys, they won't be favored because the Eagles will be favored. But if they go out and go like 12-5 and win the division and get like a 2 seed, I mean, and there's no other great candidate. I mean,
he'll get some votes.
He's got a great. I mean, I think at 45-1, that is super value. Much better.
He's got a better chance than the other guy at 45-1.
Oh, Todd Bowles. They'll be terrible. I don't care who they get, how they get them. They're going to be awful. So,
but the other half of this discussion, Jim, is Dennis Allen at 20.
We got Zach frozen, so I'll take over for a minute. Where he's going with that is he's talking about Dennis Allen. Now he's back, but you're talking about Dennis Allen. Yeah.
A quarter of the league's at 20-1. But Dennis Allen, it's not impossible because we talk about the Broncos as a bounce back team. The Saints are a bounce back candidate. If they get the quarterback stay a little bit healthier, they're in a very weak division. Let's face it. There's potential here.
In our pre-production meeting, we were talking about if I were forced to lay, I mean, you're fired if you don't make a bet on one of these two guys, Sean Payton or Dennis Allen. I'm taking Dennis Allen. That doesn't mean I think Dennis Allen's a better coach, because I certainly don't. But Dennis Allen is in a much better situation than Sean Payton is, especially if they were able to get Derek Carr or to get the likes of a Derek Carr, which there aren't too many of the likes of a Derek Carr. But if they get a real quarterback and they have a good draft, and because if they get Derek Carr, they're gonna get some other free agent wide receiver that wants to come here. I don't know who. I mean, you'll also see Mike Thomas probably want to play football.
Find a way to get Thomas back. Yeah.
And so I think this is a different team with Derek Carr, and this division is going to be sort of like the AFC South was last year. And Doug Peterson almost won Coach of the Year. I think he was second to the Giants coach, Brian Daboll, right? I believe that is the case. And
I think so.
So, I mean, you get yourself in this bad division where you can win games in this bad division. The Saints schedule is much easier next year than it was this past year. The Saints, if they get the right quarterback, they could be a 10-7 type team. And depending on what else happens across the landscape, because you're not going to give it to the coaches that you know are going to win unless they do something silly like go 16-1 or 15-2. So, I mean, Dennis Allen at 20-1, I'm not saying it's a value, but if I had to pick one, if I have to pick Dennis Allen or Sean Payton at 12-1 or Dennis Allen at 20-1, I'm picking Dennis Allen all day. Sean Payton is not going to win more than 9 games with that team, and that's not going to be good enough to be Coach of the Year.
Dennis Allen, I think gets a lot of. He's a little bit like Mike McCarthy, a lot of disrespect in like
he's the
social media circles and that sort of things. We'll see. He may have the best roster he's ever had next year if they do get Derek Carr. So we'll see.
Will the Saints fans, and here's a question, will the Saints fans still hate him and want him to be fired if he goes 9-8 and wins the division? They are so spoiled and out of touch with reality. My guess is yes. And I'm talking to you, so. Joe Q viewer.
Probably so. Well, I mean, we'll see what happens, but and who else is out there maybe is the other question. All right, let's shift back to basketball. 2 more topics to go.
By the way, we will finish with football.
Yeah, and we're going to go back to the NFL for our rants. But a couple of quick college basketball notes. SEC women's tournament. Nobody laid odds. We love our partners at Caesars. They didn't have odds. DraftKings, FanDuel, MGM. Nobody had odds.
Scared.
So I made some odds. What do you think of my odds? South Carolina minus 450.
I think they're very realistic. I think South Carolina is I'm not saying that I don't think they're going to win the tournament because I do, but I also think they care more about the NCAA tournament. Like, I think if they didn't win the SEC tournament, it wouldn't be in the greatest deal to them. So I think minus 450 is a little high or low, depending on how you look at it. I think they probably ought to be more like minus 250-ish. But everything else I saw was pretty close to what I would put. Yeah, I think it was good.
Yeah, I actually started with them higher and then thought better of it. The thing about South Carolina is they'll play Arkansas tomorrow in the quarters. That's 99% they'll win that game.
Yeah.
But after that, Ole Miss probably waits in the semifinals. Ole Miss took them to overtime. Granted, it was in Oxford, but they took them to overtime just last week. And then they would probably get LSU or Tennessee in the final. Now, we talked about Georgia being a potential landmine for LSU. Here's a question for you. You said earlier you would not bet LSU to beat South Carolina, but not obviously there is a point. What's that?
Not with your money.
Oh, well, okay.
And you got $100,000.
But what point spread would you need? I mean, because at some point, if I'm giving you LSU in 50 points, you're going to lay the mortgage on LSU. They're not going to lose by 50. Okay, so at what point spread would you start to consider LSU?
What do I have to bet? Like, what? Tell me what my forced bet is.
Let's say it's a minus 110 bet. It's $110 of your own money.
Oh, it's $110. So it's not the end of the world if I lose.
It's not a huge bet. At what point are you taking LSU with points against South Carolina?
I feel like you would be getting value if the spread were 16, which it won't be. I would maybe bet it if I would probably lay again. What I'm gonna tell you what the line should be and what it's gonna be are 2 different things. I think the line should be about 14, and it'll be closer to 12 or 11.
I was gonna say 12.5. Yeah.
So, but for me to bet it with my own money, $110 to win 100, it would have to be 16 or higher.
Okay, I think that's fair.
But it's not going to be that, so I don't have to worry about it, and I wouldn't bet that. But that being said, and I said this before, I think LSU will play better if they, in the hypothetical SEC championship game, going back to my point from before, I don't know that South Carolina is going to have the same impetus to win in the SEC tournament that they're going to have to win in the NCAA tournament. They're going to be a different animal in the NCAA tournament. They're going to be focused on the national championship again. So I think that LSU would have hypothetically a better chance to win in an SEC tournament championship than they would in a Final Four game. So if they make it to the Final Four, then they're the same side of the bracket, which right now they would be, because LSU, I believe, is number 4 and South Carolina is number 1. So they would play on the same side, and they would meet in the first game of the Final Four. First semifinal.
If you're LSU and you get to that point, it's icing on the cake. I mean, you're playing with house money at that point. Everything this season has already been everything you could have dreamed of at that point.
That's the stepping stone you want to have for this program to get back to where they were, 8-10 years ago.
So we will keep talking about that. Selection Sunday for both the men and women
I don't remember.
Is in 10 days, March the 12th. And the women are on Sunday this year. They've been Selection Monday for several years, but they're back to Sunday this year. So let's take a look at the men, because most of the men's conference tournaments, including the SEC, are next week, but we're still only 10 days away from Selection Sunday.
What about the Northeast Conference and the Horizon League?
I said most. University of Houston is your national championship favorite. Is that legit?
No. That's Mattress Mac inflated. That's ridiculous. Plus 650 for Houston. You telling me if they played the NCAA tournament 7 times
they'd win one?
They'd win one? No, get out of here. I mean, they might win one by, that's what happens. But, how often do we see, Zach, that number 1 seeds struggle? I mean, and this is going to be one of those tournaments where it wasn't like last year where we had, to me, I thought we had really solid number 1 seeds. And you hate Kansas, but I mean, Kansas was one of the favorites. They were.
I think. You say that. I think they were the only number 1 seed at the Final Four, actually, as it turned out.
Right,
they were big name teams. Yeah.
But if you went and looked going into the tournament, though, I think we would have all said these 4 teams are pretty solid. I think it's going to be weird this year, where I'm not saying we're going to say that it's the wrong number 1s. I just don't feel super confident in any of these number 1s, and so I'm not doing plus 650 on anyone. I think this is gonna be a weird year where some like 4 or 5 seeds gonna win. Watch out for. I mean, Purdue won't be a 4 or 5 seed; they'll be like a 2. But watch out for a team like Purdue, because if they go on a hot streak in the way they play, I really like them. Tennessee's in trouble now that they lost their guard. That guard, I don't. He's out for the season, right?
ACL Zakai Ziegler, little 5'8" point guard.
That's just trouble.
The battery of that team.
I like Big Ten teams in the tournament. I know that they don't win a whole bunch, but a team like Indiana to me is a scary team that can go on a run. And that might be decent odds, but I don't know. I'm gonna have to go through it and look. But Gonzaga, I know that they only have one of those guys, one of their main guys back from the past couple of years. But look, Mark Few is a fantastic coach, and maybe he does better when he's not in the limelight. They're not being, it doesn't have the microscope on them. So Gonzaga 22-1 maybe, but I don't know.
Zoe offers
teams.
Zoe offers another vote for Indiana. I'm here to tell you, I think it's been a while since the West Coast has won a national championship. Keep an eye out for the West Coast teams. If you give me Arizona, UCLA, and Gonzaga,
UCLA is experienced and battle tested.
I feel pretty good about my chances, and UCLA might be my top choice, but Arizona's very good. As you say, Gonzaga, Drew Timme is there. I don't know. Like, it's the tournament, and so part of it is, like last year, I didn't really think Kansas was capable of winning the national title until I saw the draw. They got a very soft draw.
You want them to win.
Well, I didn't. No, I certainly didn't. I didn't want them to the whole way. But once I saw the draw, I thought, oh, this could open up for them, because I can't remember the teams exactly, but it was not a very good 2 seed, not a very good 3 seed. I think they had a pretty good 4 seed, but that team lost early. And so all of a sudden the path got paved for them, and they were good enough to take advantage of it. And really, I don't even think Kansas got challenged much last year until the championship game when they fell behind against North Carolina.
Yeah, that is the only time they got challenged, I believe.
I think their Sweet 16 game might have been somewhat close, but they're 8-1, second favorite here. One thing about Kansas is there's a regional in Kansas City. So if they get that region, you're playing almost at home in that Sweet 16 Elite 8 round. And so we haven't had a repeat champion in college basketball since Florida, I believe, in 06, 07.
Yeah.
But I think Kansas is not totally out of the question either, as much as I hate to say that.
Well, and I know we're going to talk about Alabama, so I'll just bring it up now. But I mean, the way they played last night, they had, there are all kinds of issues going into the game. Then they have, I think, 3 ejected players and an ejected assistant coach. We're down 8 points at the time, got it into overtime, and then just ran past Bruce Pearl and the Auburn Tigers. I don't like either one of those teams, so it's kind of funny to see. But, hey, man, Alabama showed me a lot last night, and I don't want to root for them, but at 10-1, who knows?
See, I actually disagree with that. I look at last night, and I see a team that's losing control. And yeah, they were able to figure it out last night. They were able to figure it out on Saturday against Arkansas. They also fell behind, and they were barely able to figure it out at South Carolina, the worst team in the league, at least this side of LSU, the game before that. But ever since the Brandon Miller news came down, Alabama has gotten off to slow starts 3 times. Like you said, you got guys getting ejected, assistant coaches getting into it with the refs. I don't like the way this team looks right now, and I would not bet them for the national title. They've got all the talent in the world, but this Brandon Miller situation, and for those who don't know what we're talking about, he was the one who brought the gun to a murder scene. His teammate, now ex-teammate, allegedly shot a woman, and he was the one who brought the gun there, according to police documents. Now, he's not been charged with the crime. And so I don't know if you can say he shouldn't be playing. That's, a lot. Nate Oates has caught a lot of heat for not playing him. I mean, for not suspending him. Right. But if he didn't commit a crime, I can see where there's another side to that coin. But whatever the case is, ever since that news dropped last week, there's been all sorts of national press, national attention about this case. Alabama has not looked like they're the same team. And that includes last night. I know they came back. It was a big win. They clinched the SEC title. They don't look right. And
they had every opportunity to fold last night and didn't. So,
yeah.
See, what happened was – oh, no, never mind.
It shows you there's more than one way to look at this. But I don't think I would bet on Alabama at this point. A couple weeks ago, if you had asked me –
not at 10-1.
I really like them, but we'll see. Well, maybe a team you bet on.
Maybe they'll get knocked out early in the SEC tournament, and they'll be 14-1 or something like that.
That's true.
Because I mean, there's no difference.
Drop to a 2 seed or something.
There's no difference between a 1 or a 2 seed. Zero difference. So I mean, if you're a 1 or a 2 seed, who cares? And you go to a 2 seed, your overall outwardly appearance looks a little bit different. So maybe they'll
statistically speaking. And by the way, we're going to have a full bracket show the day after Selection Sunday, Monday, March the 13th. So that'll be a lot of fun. But statistically speaking, a 2 seed is much less likely to get out of the first weekend. But once you get to the Sweet 16, you're right. There's not that much of a difference. If you can survive that first weekend.
There's no Richmond Spiders in this tournament.
Might be some Mizzou Tigers at a 7 seed.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
You better look out.
By the way, and I'm not trying to be mean because I'm really not, but that team is dumb. They do some dumb thing. I mean, I've never seen a team go on a 4-on-1 fast break and kick it out for a 3. That is the dumbest thing. I mean, a guy standing under the basket.
Haven't you watched an NBA game in the last 5 years?
No, I'm not talking about the NBA where they do stuff for entertainment purposes only. But, I mean, you're talking about trying to get back into a game and they're kicking stuff back. Don't get me started. I thought that I don't – again, I've only seen Missouri play twice this year, both against LSU, so it's hard to judge. You get down by 19 at LSU, I'm sorry, but you can't be that good.
A very, very streaky team, no doubt about it. But 6-0 in games decided by 5 points or less, so they can't be that dumb. Probably a little lucky, but can't be that dumb.
Okay, well,
all right.
I don't know who their 7-10 matchup's going to be. Maybe they'll win that one, and then they'll play the 2 seed and get their asses kicked. So, okay.
I'll take it, man. They haven't won a tournament game in 13 years.
That's fine. They got a shot to win a tournament game.
I'll take
they're probably going to be a 7, an 8, or a 9. So there you
go. They're a good shooting team, and they just got to get hot. So, all right. Sounding off time, and we're going back to the NFL for this, and I'm going to start, and I'm going back to the Saints Derek Carr courtship, and I know, again, Derek Carr is the best available free agent on the NFL market. There is zero question about that.
Do your disclaimer first. for people that don't watch
friends
the show
with,
all
I
the
am
time.
friends with the Carr family, going back a long time. Haven't
Okay.
kept in great touch with them. Don't, it's not like I'm best buds with him or anything, but I do have a long-standing relationship with the Carr family. And
Okay.
so that's the disclaimer. But I don't think that disclaimer is even necessary. Derek Carr is the best free agent quarterback on the market right now. There's no question about it. Now, if Aaron Rodgers ends up hitting the market or Lamar Jackson, then that changes. But as of right now, it's Derek Carr and then a big
Maybe.
step down to Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh, I don't know
And
about
so,
big step down.
so let me have my sound off here. It's
I
my rant.
can't. Go ahead.
Can't keep your mouth shut.
No,
All right.
okay. Hold on, I'm pressing mute.
But here's the bigger point. Yeah, to unplug that thing. Here's the bigger point. The Saints, for a long time, were known as a free agent destination because of Sean Payton. Guys want to come play with Sean Payton. The guy, he's a player's coach. He's successful. They want to come win. Look at the roster. If you look back at it, that's not really true. The Saints struggled to sign big name free agents. Jadeveon Clowney didn't sign here. Well, this was after Payton, but Deshaun Watson didn't sign here. I mean, there's been several chances for them to sign big name free agents, and they really have not been able to do so until those guys are past their prime. So to me, if you can sign Derek Carr, it's more than just improving your quarterback position. It's signaling to the rest of the league that guys want to come here, that they want.
Don't make me finish his rant. It's so apropos that you froze up. Are you there? You're there.
Yes, I'm here. I don't know what's going on. To me, it would be a major coup for the Saints if they could sign Derek Carr.
Okay. Well, I don't want to cuckoo on your sound off little thingy there, but I will agree with this part. Derek Carr is most certainly the best free agent quarterback that the Saints can possibly get. Let's put it that way, because they're not getting Aaron Rodgers, even if he becomes a free agent, and they're not getting Lamar Jackson, even if he becomes a free agent. So that being said, the best quarterback that will be available potentially to the New Orleans Saints is Derek Carr. Now, I'm not going to – he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo. And I'm too bad Uncle Big Nick isn't watching. I mean, he's not that much better than Jimmy Garoppolo. The difference between Derek Carr and Jimmy Garoppolo is this. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo could lead you to anything better than 9-8, maybe 10-7. Derek Carr, with the right set of circumstances and you get Michael Thomas back and he wants to play. You get another receiver, and you have Chris Olave, and the O-line stays healthy, and the defense plays like it's been playing. That's a lot of ifs. But if those things happen, the Saints are a legit team. I mean, you know me. I'll tell it like it is. When they stink, I say they stink. But they have a legitimate chance to be something if all those things happen. If they don't get Derek Carr and they get Jimmy Garoppolo, then you're talking about, okay, maybe they can win the division because the division stinks and they'll be a little better than they were last year. But if they don't get one of those two guys, it's going to be a long, long, long 10 months. Or I guess 6 months if you want to just count the football season.
Well, what I'm saying is I think this goes beyond just whether they get the player or not, and it's more of a message to how this Dennis Allen era could go. It's a big deal to go get him and to beat out some teams who also really want him. Because you see, with the way the Panthers and Jets talk about this guy, they want him too. And I'll bet you there's other teams who want him and haven't talked to him or don't feel like they could enter the sweepstakes. It would be a big deal if the Saints could sign this guy. So
I agree.
All right, Jim, we'll clear the deck. Another guy wants it to be
sound off.
Yeah, he wants it to be a real big deal if somebody signs him. In fact, I think he wants like a presidential press conference or something when he makes his decision.
I am already over and sick of Aaron Rodgers. I don't give a rat's ass where you go play next year. Just pick someone and don't. He's going to be one of these guys that's holding everything out. The problem with him holding all this stuff up is because the Jets are like drooling over themselves to have the chance to have 39-year-old Aaron Rodgers, who, in my opinion, is a shell of his former self. Okay? Now, you'll have better receivers in New York, but you won't have as good a running game. Will you have a better O-line? Maybe. Who knows? The point is, do we all have to sit around and say, well, I'm going to make my decision and when I'm ready, and I'm going to go on another retreat, and I'm going to who cares? I'm sick of seeing this dude on TV already. And so it's really bothering me. I just had to get that off of my chest. And I don't care where you go, just go. I mean, if you're going to stay in Green Bay, great. But you want to go back to the Derek Carr situation. I think a lot hinges on what happens with it. If Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets, I think the Saints are well past 50%. I think the Saints are the clear-cut favorites to get Derek Carr. If Aaron Rodgers stays with Green Bay or goes to Vegas, because those are the only other two choices, in my opinion, then the Jets are going to be pushing hard to get Derek Carr, and they're going to offer a lot more money because they have a lot more cap space, and it'll come down to whether Carr wants to play for a ton of money or play where he feels more comfortable, and that's going to be a tough choice for him. Do you want to be in the limelight of the Big Apple? I don't know if that's who he is. You would know better than I, but whatever it is, get Aaron Rodgers off my damn television, please, and just go do whatever you got to do and make a decision.
I think David Carr had the best years of his career in New York playing as Eli Manning's backup with the Giants. So there may be something there. But I'll say this. The interesting thing, you're right, because Aaron Rodgers is the domino that everyone's waiting on. But the interesting thing to me is, let's say 10 more days go by and we're talking next Sunday, and Aaron Rodgers still hasn't made his decision. I think Derek Carr does not want to let this go too far into free agency. I think he wants to sign and try to show the team that he signs with what kind of cap space they have, what kind of contract, and get rolling on the league year. I think he may go ahead and make his decision, even if Rodgers hasn't, unless Rodgers' decision comes in the next few days.
The problem is not if he wants to go to New York. If he wants to go to New York, it's kind of the same boat that Jameis was in last year, right? I mean, Jameis had to wait until Deshaun Watson made his decision to figure out what was going to happen. I think Derek Carr could be in a similar situation. If he knows he wants to go to New York may be saying, hey, look, no offense, but we want Aaron Rodgers, or maybe not come out and say it like that. You may be right. At some point, he might say, you know what, I'm going to make my own decision, but I don't know. He doesn't sound like he's in a big hurry, and I'm not really sure why he would be, because it's not like they're training or doing anything like that. I think there's no reason, if you're Derek Carr, to do anything before the end of this month for sure. So I think we're in for a little wait here.
I'm going to go ahead and say I'll take the under on March 31st. I think this happens before then. I don't think he wants to wait. But we shall see.
Because we're gonna, at some point, people want to stop wanting to hear about it, because especially the people that don't want to get Derek Carr, they might throw a party if he signs somewhere else. Those people. All
right, we will be back with Bayou Bets on Monday at 4:00, same channels. Check us out. We'll talk some more Saints free agency. Maybe something will happen by then. Maybe not. We'll see how the Pelicans do tomorrow night against Golden State and get you ready for Monday night's game in Sacramento. And we'll have more LSU. SEC tournament field will be set next week for the men, and we'll know if the women did indeed match up again with South Carolina and how that went. That game would be Sunday. So we will talk to you then. Until then, happy bets, good luck. And for Jim Derry, our producer, Zoe Collins-Raff, thanks for watching Bayou Bets.